There's a big item on my list for my 911 that I'll be covering on today's episode. I got a new set of rotors as well as brake pads, and on today's vlog I will be sharing with you my experience on how to install these items. So strap in and let's get started. Today is going to be a busy vlog. On episode 100 in the Monterey Car Week vlog, I talked about a few things that I wanted to get done on my 911, and today I'm going to be replacing the rotors and the brake pads. In previous vlogs, I was talking about possibly upgrading my brakes into a bigger brake kit, and I did a lot of research and I noticed that there's going to be a lot of modifications I need to do, in particular because I have a .1997. So after doing all that research, I decided to just go and replace everything with OEM equipment. So I purchased already the rotors and the brake pads. And if you notice back there, the package just came in. When shopping around for new rotors and brake pads, I didn't hold back. I went with the ceramic brake pads by Brembo, and the rotors I got a full set by Pagid. So I got a German-Italian combo with the Pagid and Brembo brands. I have all my tools ready. I'll be going over the tools I'll be needed for this job, but I'm not sure the sizing on some of the sockets, so I'll go over that a little bit later. But the first thing I need to do is get my car raised up, my car on the ramps, and jack it up. Now that I got my car on the ramp, I'm going to jack it up so that way I could remove my wheels and start working on the brakes. As a safety precaution, I always make sure I got my jack stand and I chock the tires, both the front side of it and the back side, just to be safe. Now that I got the wheels out, I'm going to share with you and examine the condition of my brakes right now, because it's definitely due for replacement. Notice how the discs are really engraved. You can see how bad they are, and then the brake pads right down there, they're due for replacement. I'm not too sure how long this rotor's been here, but I definitely want to replace that and do the pads as well at the same time. Now that I figured out what size socket the brake caliper is needed, I'm going to talk about which tools I'm going to be using today. I do have my jack stands set up right here, my hydraulic jacks, as well as my impact wrench. But other items to discuss are, I'll be using my ratchet and a 10mm socket, 10mm Allen socket for the brake calipers. And then I also gonna use my torque wrench, because once I'm done putting everything back together, I wanna torque the calipers back into spec. I do need a Phillips screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and then I just use this star screwdriver here because I'm going to use it to punch out one of the pins holding down the brake pads. I have my slant nose needle pliers, and I'm going to add this as a bonus, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But for the most part, these are the tools I'm going to be needing for this project. I did decide to bring this tool out just for today. I haven't used this in many years. I just oiled it and connected it to my compressor, so I'll be using this for today's project. First thing I'm going to do is take out this pin. That's why I have this tool, because it's kind of going to be set like this, and I'm going to use a hammer to push it out. But before I do that, I need my slant nose pliers, because there's a cotter pin right here that I need to pull out. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to work on pulling the brake pads towards me and the outer ones inner. That way I could remove That way I can remove the caliper and start working on the rotors. So I got the pin out, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove the brake wear sensor here, and then this pin right here that holds the brake pads down is going to come out as well. I was able to depress the piston a little bit this way and the outer ones towards the inner. I just use this tool and this piece right here so that I don't scratch my caliper. And now that it's depressed, I'm going to take out the caliper bolts. One is here and one is down there. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to be able to pull this out. I put a box here so I could rest the caliper on. You never want to leave the caliper hanging on the brake lines, so that's why I have this box. Some people use bungee cords, which I've done in the past, but I want to use the box because I want to make sure that it doesn't dangle. Now that I got the caliper off, there are 2 Phillips screwdriver screws, so I'm going to remove them and pull out the rotors. Now that I got the rotors off, I'm going to go get the ones from Pagid and compare the two. Here's the new ones from Pagid. They're going to be a direct replacement. Here's the old ones. You also want to make sure that the patterns are the same direction because they're directional. So when you purchase these, they'll ask you which is left, which is right. So when you replace them, you want to make sure that they're the right direction. So now that I got the rotors out, I have direct access to the pads. So I'm going to remove them. Here are the new ceramic brakes from Brembo. I do have the brake disc quiet liquid here. So I'm going to, on the back side of these, apply it so that way once about 10 minutes goes by, I can reinstall it on my calipers. I just installed the rotors. It was pretty straightforward. Just basically mounted on and it's held by 2 Phillips screws over here. I did change my gloves because I didn't want to get any of the residue from the previous one anywhere on the discs. So I'm going to start putting some disc brake quiet liquid on these pads and then reinstall the caliper. And then from this side, I'll put on the brake pads. Now that I got everything put together, I did add this bonus gold reflective tape around the hat of the rotor. I didn't want to paint it, so I'm just doing it as a trial to see how it looks like. If it doesn't look good, I could easily just remove it since it's reflective tape. But the next step now is to torque the top caliper bolt here and the bottom one down here. I have my torque wrench all set up here. It's set up at 63 foot-pounds of torque, which is the OEM spec for it. So I'm going to tighten the bolt now and put on my wheels, and the front should be set. I got the pads in now. It took about maybe an hour to an hour and a half to get this job done in the front. So I'm gonna button everything up now, put the wheels on, bring the car down, and move on to the back. I'm gonna move everything towards the back. So I have all my tools set up here now. The car's already lifted in the back. So I'm gonna pull out the wheels and start the job on the rear brakes. Now that I got the rear wheels off, I'm gonna do the exact same steps as I did in the front. I'm gonna pull out this pin, remove the sensors, pull out the clip here, and then on the back, I'll be taking out the caliper bolts, remove these. That way I have access to take out the brake pads, and I'll start working on taking out the rotors. The rotors also have the same 2 Phillips screwdriver screws. So once I remove that, I'll replace it with the new one. After doing the fronts, the backs were a lot more quicker. I did take out the caliper and the brake pads already. So now I'm gonna unscrew the 2 that hold the rotors, pull it out, and replace it with a new one. Here's the brake pads. These are the worn ones, and these are the brand new ones from Brembo. I just finished installing the rotors and the new brake pads. Pretty much everything's wrapped up now in the back. I did spend some time putting on the gold heat wrap, but again, if I put everything back on, it doesn't look good. I could easily just take it out. But I'm just gonna experiment with it, how it looks now, and put everything back together and see how it looks. Now that I did everything on the other side, it was basically the same thing all around. So it was much easier when I did the second time. Every time a brake pad procedure is done, or in this case, the rotors and the brake pads, I gotta make sure that the pistons are seating well. So I gotta take my car out for a drive, do some brake procedures so that everything seats well. And then after that's done, I'll throw some slides to see how the finished product looks like. On the last episode, I did talk about how I wanted to bring up some progress on my M5. On episode 100, one of the things that I mentioned on that vlog was that I wanted to replace the battery on this car. So what I'm planning on doing is run some tests with my Autel so that you can see how the condition of the battery is and monitor the progress to see both the voltage and the battery life. And that will determine whether or not I really need a battery. So that's gonna do it for this episode. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.